welcome to our daily news program coming to you from Canal, Algérie. Let's start off by taking a look at your today's headlines. Reviewing the retirement pension and acquiring firefighting jets among the top stories of the Council of Ministers meeting chaired by the President of the Republic. Army General Saïd Greha, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, stresses the perpetual cohesion between the Army and the people during his visit to the 5th Military Region in Constantine. Algeria is celebrating the World Labour Day among major achievements highly appreciated by the National Workers' Trade Union. The tourism season is over and experts focus on a better management of the sector in the southern provinces. Good evening and welcome back. We start off our today's news with the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, who chaired a meeting of the Council of Ministers on Sunday. The meeting was devoted to draft bills related to the protection and preservation of state lands, conditions and modalities for granting economic real estate intended for investment as well. More details with Melissa Kabash.
After opening the meeting by the President of the Republic and the presentation of the Prime Minister related to the government's activities for the past 2 weeks, the President gave the following guidelines. Regarding the protection and preservation of the state lands, the draft bill includes another chapter related to defining the methods and conditions for leveling buildings illegally constructed. The necessity of distinguishing between repossessed properties under state protection and other chaotic buildings, which were built in many cases with the complicity of local authorities. The local administrative authorities bear the responsibility of protecting the repossessed real estate and lands following the end of deportation of their legal inhabitants. Follow deterrent measures to hold accountable all those involved or responsible of the seizure of state lands and impose severe penalties on them. The establishment of law devoted to combating forgery and the use of illegal residence certificates so as to obtain a real estate or housing unit. At the end of the debate on this draft law, the President stressed the priority of restoring the state's prestige and full transparency while protecting the citizens' rights. Concerning the granting of economic real estate belonging to the private property of the state destined to investment projects, the President urged the government to adopt a purely economic approach on this draft bill to encourage investments by limiting the granting of economic real estate to the National Agency for Investment Promotion. All measures taken in this regard must be made through the office entrusted with all investment operations and facilitate them. Relying on an economic vision so as to facilitate the investment operations and provide the state with means away from all forms of interventions. Making changes to the draft bill to qualify the National Agency for Investment Promotion to purchase economic real estate within the framework of investment regulation. As for the prevention measures to confront fires during the summer season, the President stressed that the ability to confront forest fires requires an effective vigilance system that issues warnings with precise identification of intervention points so as to control fires before they spread even more. The President of the Republic launched a bid to purchase 6 medium-sized firefighting jets to back the fleet of aircraft and helicopters owned by Algeria. He also instructed the government to use the latest locally manufactured technologies during the summer season to guard forest areas. The President also ordered the launching of a bid for the benefit of startups so as to modernize the means and equipment for monitoring the forest through drones and coordinate with the People's National Army's command to facilitate these vital operations and control this phenomenon. Concerning the social protection of fisheries professionals, the President of the Republic appreciated the progress achieved in the aquaculture division, ordering the Minister of the sector to consolidate this gain and expand aquaculture while allowing fishermen on the high seas to purchase used boats for less than 5 years. help professionals by all means to produce what the sector needs to protect their craft, which provides jobs, an important wealth in the food chain of Algerians. And after the presentation and approving the draft law regulating the profession of judicial bailiffs, the Council of Ministers approved the proposal of the Religious Affairs Minister and Endowments, which includes extending the feast of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha holidays to 3 paid days instead of 2. As for general directives within the framework of the continuous improvement of citizens' living conditions, and in addition to the previous increase approved by the President for retirees, the Council agreed to review retirement pensions annually starting from the 1st of May. 5% for the category within a pension less than or equal to 20,000 dinars, 4% for those exceeding 20,000 and less than or equal to 50,000 dinars, and 3% for those exceeding 50,000 dinars. The President instructed the Minister of Agriculture to establish an office that undertakes the purchase of all farmers' products, including vegetables and fruits that can be stored, such as onions, garlic and potatoes, with an aim to achieve balance on the national market, considering the efforts of farmers as a red line. The President of the Republic also ordered the government to continue fighting all forms of corruption, initiating the first operation of the Housing Bank by the end of June, on parallel with the Bank of Algeria in both Nouakchott and Dakar. At the end, the Council of Ministers approved the appointment and termination of duties of senior state officials.
As part of the follow-up of the execution of the Combat Readiness Programme 2022-2023 at the different units of the People's National Army deployed throughout the military regions, Army General Said Shingreha, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, started on Sunday a working and inspection visit to the 5th Military Region in Constantine Province. Further details with Ines Kilo.
At the level of the 1st Armored Division and after the welcoming ceremony by Major General Nordin Hambli, commander of the 5th Military Region, the Army General presided over a meeting with the executives and personnel of the region, where he delivered an orientation speech followed by all the personnel of the 5th Military Region via video conference.
لقد قلتها في مناسبة سابقة وأعيدها اليوم.
Army General reaffirmed that the perpetual cohesion of the Algerian people with its nationalist and loyal leadership and with its constitutional institutions is the only guarantee for the preservation of the security and stability of our country. He also stressed that in the People's National Army, as they carry out their mission under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, they have relied heavily on the loyalty and noble feelings of the Algerian people towards Algeria, which needs the efforts of all, efforts based on mutual aid and solidarity, but also on the unwavering commitment to serve Algeria and contribute to the consolidation of its security, stability and national sovereignty.
والالتزام الدائم والتام بحتمية خدمة الجزائر والمساهمة في صيانة أمنها واستقرارها وسيادتها الوطنية. وهي مسؤولية نبيلة بقدر ما نعتبر حسن الاطلاع بها من صلب مهامنا.
He also stressed that a promising future awaits our country on all factors and components necessary to make it a reality in the ground, thanks to the enormous resources and natural wealth that it possesses. But most importantly, it has a genuine people who have been fought by trials and experiences, and that they hold values, principles and ambition that allow them to pursue the path of development, progress and prosperity.
والتطور والتنمية ويتحول إلى قوة حقيقية على كافة الأصعدة وفي كل الميادين.
At the end, Army General followed the interventions of the region's executives and gave them a set of orientations relating in particular to the imperative to continue the efforts of preparation for combat with seriousness and rigor, so that the battle corps of the People's National Army is maintained at the highest degree of operational availability.
Barakallahu fiik.
In other news, and as part of celebrating the World Labour Day, the General Union of the Algerian Workers affirmed in a message that this event embodies the respect and the continuous commitment of Algerian workers in quest of the relaunch and development of national economy. The Central Trade Union, for its part, highlighted the fact that this day puts forward the values and sacrifices made to guarantee the legitimate rights of workers, affirming that the patriotism of Algerian workers is a telling evidence of their conviction and hope for a better future. In a related topic, the Algerian workers celebrate the World Labour Day in a context marked by the huge efforts being undertaken by the government to consolidate the important socio-professional achievements made so far. Story by Najah Diyar.
Global reforms and new dynamic being set in the country under the aegis of the President of the Republic. The past few years have been marked by unprecedented stability in unions' action based on sincere political will and total support of trade unions in the promotion of social dialogue and the protection of workers' rights and fundamental freedoms. In this perspective, the government has taken important measures highly appreciated by various unions, crowning the policy meant to preserve jobs and the workers' dignity in the line with the President of the Republic's instructions. Among these gains, the wages below 30,000 dinars exemption from the global income tax, a measure that concerns nearly 2 million workers, the increase in the national minimum guaranteed wage to 20,000 dinars. In addition to that, the operation to insert 600,000 civil employees into their positions in the public sector has started. Also, the obstacle lifting on the investments and creation of economic micro-units took place, aiming to promoting the creation of thousands of job opportunities. Many observers describe the decisions taken by the President of the Republic in favor of the Algerian employees as historic and audacious, stemming from his conviction of the need to be constantly attentive to their fundamental concerns in an attempt to find the best approach likely to reinforce the achievements made in their favor, and for his commitments to the permanent dialogue with the social partners to guarantee transparency and full compliance with the laws. It is within the framework of this approach that the law relating to the exercise of unions' right was introduced to establish unions' independence and to broaden the base of workers and unions, in addition to allowing the unions to recover their strength and credibility, as the President of the Republic affirmed during his last meeting with the representatives of the national press, emphasizing that the exercise of trade unions' rights is a right secured by the Constitution. This new law strengthens the freedom of unions' action and reactivates the role of unions organizations in the defense of the fundamental rights of workers through the institution of principles guaranteeing the independence and neutrality of trade unions. According to data recently released by the Labour Ministry, the current union scene is made up of 160 registered union organizations, including 99 workers' organizations and 61 employers' organizations, representing the various professions and sectors of activity. Despite the large number of approved union organizations, 43 are inactive, which has required significant and urgent reform work to overcome the era of anarchic creation of unions. Algeria's efforts to achieve social justice have been welcomed, in particular through his election on June 14, 2021, on the board of directors of the International Labour Organization for a 3-year term. This election is an important achievement for Algeria and a recognition by member countries of its pioneering role within the international entity.
On Sunday, the President of the Council of the Nation, Salah Koujil, received the President of the Zimbabwean National Assembly, Jacob Mudenda. The two parties discussed the ways to strengthen historical relations existing between the two countries and the means to boost coordination in line with the strategic guidelines of the two heads of state. On this occasion, Koujil put forward Algeria's efforts aiming to activate the cooperation mechanisms between the different African countries. For his part, the President of the Zimbabwe Zimbabwean National Assembly recalled Algeria's continuous support for the independence of his country, while assuring Zimbabwe's availability to further consolidate bilateral cooperation and coordination in the different fields of endeavor. Still, with the President of the National Assembly of Zimbabwe, Jacob Mudenda, who was equally received by the President of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boghali. The discussions focused on the excellent relations between the two countries, notably in the parliamentary sector. Boghali put forward the necessity to consolidate cooperation in all sectors, while Mudenda hailed the coordination levels in parliamentary activities between the two countries. Let's now have a listen to the statement made by Jacob Mudenda on the occasion.
Well, the first issue was to express our gratitude for the invitation made by my brother here, President Boghal, to come and visit the Parliament of Algeria. And we discussed the importance of strengthening our political cooperation, and which dates back before our independence. And now we need to stress the importance of economic freedom by encouraging accelerated trade and investment between our two sister republics. And I indicated that parliaments have a very important role in ensuring that we come up with laws that improve the ease of doing business.
Moving on to economy, Algiers Stock Exchange recorded its highest performance indicators at the Arab level during the first term of 2023. The Arab Monetary Fund advanced by 14% compared to the last quarter of 2022, according to its latest report. To Sudan now, where fighting continues between the Sudanese army and the rapid support forces in Khartoum, Omdurman and Darfur, as a fragile 3-day truce is about to expire. Millions of Sudanese people were trapped by bombing and the anti-aircraft fires since the outbreak of clashes on April the 15th. Tens of thousands were displaced or traveled to neighboring countries, while foreign governments evacuated their nationals due to the deplorable security situation. Still with the international news, the Cuban Communist Party reiterated his country's immutable position in favor of the Sahrawi cause, as stated by the number 2 executive of the International Relations Department of the party's Central Committee, Juan Carlos Marsan, during his discussions with the Polisario Front representative for Latin America and the Caribbean. In a different story, the French lawyer Elise Tollet was prevented by the Moroccan authorities to access the occupied Sahrawi territories so as to meet Sahrawi political detainees and their families. She deplores the fact that West Sahara is a territory forbidden to foreigners, while there are several cases pending before the UN's Committee Against Torture, among them the case of the prisoners of the group Gdim Izik. And an unfortunate incident took place on Friday in Casablanca, and that's during a match of the African Cup of Clubs, as clashes broke out between the supporters and police and resulted in the death of a young woman. Ines Kilou reports.
Death and more serious incidents in Moroccan football. This situation has definitely gotten out of hand.
We bought tickets, but unfortunately we couldn't get in because the stadium was already full. They sold us tickets more than the stadium seats.
The reason for this disastrous situation is the CAF Champions League match. Raja Casablanca received the great Egyptian Al Ahly to retain its place in the final. The scene is horrific, and even before the show starts, the horror takes place.
كاع لا تضرب فيك يموتوا ماشي هذا واو تصور هذا وها هو اللي حداك خويا خليه لحد الان باقي ما جاش الاسعاف غير بعض المواطنين اللي كيقوموا الان بالاسعافات الاوليه. نتمنوا من الله ما يكونش شي حاجه اللي كارثيه.
Race results, big jostle and even more serious, the death of a young 29-year-old supporter who thought she was going to witness a great moment of sport.
دراري صغار بنات عيالات كلشي تيموت كلشي هنا راه كاينه بنت دابا ميته علاش على والو حنا كلشي شاري وراقي ديالو واقف في الصف ديالو.
We came to support our favorite team Raja, not to go through this horrible situation. We bought stadium tickets to see the game, but we ended up in a massacre.
ديالنا مخلصين مسائل ديالنا كنديروا التنظيم ديالنا كيضربونا هنايا بالكاميوات ديال الماء راه لا اله الا الله وخاص يدار شي حل فهادشي ديال التنظيم.
Images that speak for themselves and that have been shown around the world. What a sad sight. The phenomenon of violence in Morocco stadiums is not new, and it is certainly not a major asset to claim the organization of an African Cup of Nations or a World Cup. Moroccan sport is forever sacred, and the causes of these acts of violence are well known. Poor social conditions, excessive drug use, and a poorly organized sporting event.
Sports now. USM Algiers progressed to the semi-final round of the CAF Confederation Cup despite their 2-3 defeat to the Moroccan side of AS FAR. Let's wish all the best for our unique representative in this competition. And the tourism season is over in southern Algeria with a successful report, notably after the visa issuing facilitations. Nevertheless, several groups of tourists keep flocking to the region in the last days of spring, particularly in the Hogar Mountains. Story by Najah Dayar.
Tamanrasset, an open-air museum at the heart of a sand ocean. 540,000 square meters, known for its massive Ahagar Mountains, which offer a volcanic panorama considered as one of the most beautiful in the world and classified as the World Heritage by the UNESCO. It has become a very popular destination for foreign tourists, eager to discover its rare landscapes. Here are a group of more than 20 people who came to discover the magic of Algerian art, music, cuisine and nature. In 1997, I came to Algeria. I have visited more than 100 countries and I was never welcomed as good as in Algeria. I took this opportunity to revisit Algeria, especially with the visa issuing facilitations and the high security improvement. During their stay, several stopovers wait for the Hogar guests, visits to the rock engraving sites, funerary monuments, Tahat region, Eskram Plateau and many other tourist sites, a rich and varied program enough to make their trip unique and unforgettable. The airlines company Air Algérie opened the Paris-Janet direct flight last season. We have witnessed the arrival of a large number of foreign tourists, so we intend to renew the experience on the occasion of the next season. With its undeniable tourism assets, more than 600 tourists have visited Tamanrasset during the last 5 months. Its attractiveness has been boosted thanks also to the facilitations of visa guaranteed to foreign tourists.
And with that, we wind up today's news. Thank you for joining us and goodbye.